record the webinar. So, okay, so I think we'll begin, and whoever comes on will just come on in whenever we're starting our webinar. So. Okay, well, first I want to thank everyone who's on the call for joining us today. With the beginning of our monthly community health webinar series. My name is Eugene Gallego Jr. with Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board, and I am a program coordinator for Good Health and Wellness. And joining with me is Warren. You can't really see him right now. So, who is also a program coordinator for Good Health and Wellness. First, I would like to introduce Denisa Livingston, who will be presenting today, along with Danny Simpson, as soon as he joins on the successes of the community health-led Healthy Dine Nation Laws. Denisa Livingston is our member of the Navajo Nation in the Four Corners area of New Mexico. Denisa is a volunteer leader, legislative speaker, and community health advocate for the Dine.
All right, well, thank you so much. All right.
From the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Denisa received a bachelor's degree and a master's of public health degree. She is also a graduate of the Leadership San Juan program and Leadership New Mexico. Her mission is to improve the lives of others and her purpose to empower her community. She is committed to addressing the diabetes epidemic, the dominant culture of unhealthy foods, and the lack of healthy foods access on the Navajo Nation. Mr. Danny Simpson, who will be joining us, is a member of the Navajo Nation and from the community of Hirfano, New Mexico. He serves 12 consecutive years as an elective council delegate of the Navajo Nation and is currently the, and I may be saying this wrong, I'm not sure, Nagizi chapter coordinator he has committed his life to represent and lead the Navajo Nation. His services has not only impacted the local communities by the nation as whole. He has partnered the Dine Community Advocacy Alliance addressing the health crisis, diabetes, and obesity while advocating for healthy opportunities. He supports healthy living and wellness initiatives and is empowering to help others become a community advocate, leader, and an example. And now I'll be turning it over to you, Denisa.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I did meet Chris Johnson last year and at the Good Health and Wellness event in Detroit. And so he had wanted us to present. And I know that you guys invited us there before. It was in the summer of last year, but we didn't have availability at that time. So I'm really excited to share with you the 3 bills that we passed. My tribal leader will be here any minute, and he'll join in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Everyone can hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
There's kind of an echo over here in South Dakota.
So there's a little bit of
Should
echo.
I use my phone to call it?
Probably, I think the best thing to do is everyone mute their mic as well. So
Okay. I'll mute. I'll try to mute.
Okay. So we don't have the noise coming from everyone's
Okay.
screen. But please let me know if you can't hear us or anything. Somebody jump in and let us know. So I'm going to share a screen here. Can everybody see that? Okay. So thanks, like I said, to everyone. I'm going to be sharing a little bit of the journey that we've been taking for the past couple of years. The name of the group that I represent is the Dine Community Advocacy Alliance, and we're basically a grassroots level organization. So we're all volunteers. We commit our time whenever we can. We have been able to pass the legislation successfully with everyone's commitment. And so really we're trying to raise awareness about our health status here, and also the lack of food security. And one thing that we really emphasize, and in Navajo, this is let's live a long life, and that is Shana Danigligo Asa Nildeto. So it's really hard to say, and it's really hard to live in a food desert and try to be healthy. So this is something that really united everyone to come together to promote a long life, and especially a long, healthy life. So for those of you that don't know, we're actually logging in here from the Navajo Nation, and here on our Navajo Nation.
Excuse me, Denisa.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt real quick? Brian,
Yes.
You can mute your microphone.
Oh, I thought it was.
It should be on the bottom left if you click the mute button. I just told you. We're good, Denisa. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So 1 out of 3 of our Navajo people are diabetic, and this iceberg definitely shows how many people are living with pre-diabetes. And we're spending so much money on this, and we're facing an epidemic. And I always say that our people, we are an endangered species. And I think that we can all relate, because the path that we're taking, I mean, definitely in 10 years, 2 out of 3 Navajos will be diabetic. And so we are facing this right now, and it's something that really touches the heart of all of our Navajo people. We all know someone that has been either diagnosed or living with diabetes, or has been affected, especially our young children who now are coming into the clinic and are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And so we said, you know, we got to face this. We got to actually find a way to combat this and also address this. This is a picture that I took on the right side in one of our communities in Crown Point, New Mexico, which is near Gallup. And you can see here a small bag of fruits and vegetables is $6.19. And that's a very small bag. I mean, it's not big enough, you know, to feed, you know, the whole family. I mean, one of these bags could just go in one day. And then, of course, you have the Spam here, which is very inexpensive. And you could definitely tell, you know, that people would rather buy the less expensive food product. And from this moment, we wanted to address our needs here. And according to the USDA, we are 99% food desert. So the picture on your left side, that is most of the Navajo Nation in pink. And we just have 1% access to healthy food. So raising awareness of our choices, when we did advocate for healthy choices and the unhealthy foods tax at the tribal council, some of the children and the young people did hold up, you know, these pictures, because as you can see, you know, this is all unhealthy foods, and you can see that it's in the shape of a gun, and there's candy and bread and different things there. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Simpson's locked out. Let me just go get the door. One moment. Sorry about that. So Mr. Simpson's joining us right now. You can look in the camera and say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
So moving on, according to the U.S. Census, a lot of advertisements were geared toward our biggest population of 24 years and younger, and that forced the children to be the major consumers on our Navajo Nation. We can see that across the U.S. as well. A lot of advertisements are geared towards teens and young children who are not the primary decision makers. And so one of the inventories that we did in Kayenta, which is about an hour from where we are, 80% of the inventory qualified as junk food and sweetened beverages. And in the inventories across our convenience stores, our grocery stores, we can see that the inventory is as much as 99%. And this is something, that we're raising awareness about. And so all across the US, like we know, sizes are increasing while the prices are decreasing. So we had to create a lot of advertisements, a lot of different messages. When we were speaking on the council floor, they would give us 5 minutes, but that would change to like 1 minute. And so we definitely had to create something that would capture everyone's attention. And definitely we had this picture here that we are hungry for change. And so from the left to the right, you're eating unhealthy, you will be healthy. To the right side, if you eat healthy, you will stay healthy. And a lot of the focus that we committed to was focusing on a healthy future, and especially the children. So one of the laws that we worked on around the Navajo Nation, outside the border towns and the neighboring towns, we had no sales tax on fresh fruits and vegetables and healthy foods. So on the Navajo Nation, we were paying a 5% sales tax. And so we decided to eliminate that tax, and these are the categories that we included: the fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, nut butter, seeds, and water. But that not only included that, we had the cultural part of it. For example, like the fresh herbs, the fresh spices, and especially being in New Mexico, we have a lot of chili, we have Mexican spices. That was included. The special ethnic fruits and vegetables, and for the Navajos, we have the sumac berries and yucca and juniper. And so those would all be included, and as well as the frozen or even fresh corn, anything with blue, yellow, white, or hominy or pasoli, and also the dried beans would be included. And so this here was enacted on April 22nd of 2014, and it became effective October 1st of 2014. The next law that we advocated for, and I'll show you a timeline in a few slides about how these were introduced together. And we decided to have an unhealthy foods tax law, which in the beginning we started with a junk food tax, but we couldn't find a scientific definition of junk food, and we couldn't, pinpoint, which foods would be junk food. And so we decided to remove those two words from our original legislation and decided to go with unhealthy food. And in the beginning, we did have the milligrams of sodiums, of sugar and salt and fat. And when it came down to actually inventorying some of these foods at the convenience store, some of the foods didn't qualify under the definitions that we received. And we work with dietitians on this piece here. And so we said, the industry is going to continue to create foods that will not qualify, and they will be considered healthy. And so we decided to have a general listing and categories. And these are the 5 areas that we really focused on. All the beverages except for, of course, water and unsweetened tea and unsweetened coffee. Sweets, which can include candy and frozen desserts, chips and crisps, anything that was baked, fried, or toasted, because we know some things are considered healthy, but they are full of sodium. Fast food, that included any of the areas on the Navajo Nation that maybe McDonald's or Taco Bell, and even the pawn shops, anything that was considered retail, that was included here. And that includes the casinos as well as the hotels. And flavor enhancers, salt and sugar, and other sweeteners. So we really had an expansive list, but this is something that is a friendlier version. And this took effect on April 1st of last year, and so it wasn't in the news that, it's no April Fool's jokes. We do have an unhealthy foods tax here on the Navajo Nation. So the annual revenue from the tax, according to the Office of the Navajo Tax Commission, if it was at 80%, we had unhealthy foods in the stores, it would generate $2.7 million a year. With an estimation of 90% of the Navajo Nation being a food desert, we're really looking at $3 million and above. So this is just an average. The third law that we passed is the Community Wellness Development Projects Fund. That was to ensure that 100% of the tax revenue went back to our 110 communities across the Navajo Nation. And so all of the 110 chapters will be able to receive the money and implement community wellness projects. And this took effect last year, April 13th. And some of the community wellness projects, it's just a range of everything, because we know that each community has their own unique needs, and depending on the age and of course the gender, I mean, we're really looking at anything from exercise equipment, picnic grounds, health classes, and intergenerational contemporary wellness workshops. And that can include also the traditional craft classes, like for the elders or anybody that wants to learn about that. And traditional and non-traditional healthy food preparation classes, food processing, anything that you could ever imagine, it's in this list. And even a health library, having health educational materials available for the communities, and vegetable gardens, equine therapy, using horse therapy, and making convenient store improvements. One of the things that we discussed was having signs in the grocery stores or convenience stores that foods are tax-free or taxable, so that people were aware of that. And as well as recycling initiatives, because we don't have anything of this nature on the Navajo Nation. And so this is part of the law, that people will be able to propose a wellness project and get a resolution passed, and then they'll be able to get the funds for their projects in their communities. And this law actually expires in 2020. So we're really looking at less than 5 years. And in the original legislation, there was no ending date. And so we really had to advocate. And also in the original legislation, we had advocated for 5% and also increasing that either every year or every other year. But we could not get the approval of the council. And so we settled on 2%, and that will be reconsidered in 2020. So I hope everyone can see this. This is a timeline of about 2 years, starting from the left. The idea came about 2011, and we had introduced the bills together. So the 5% junk food tax and the unhealthy food tax were one bill, and they both failed in the summer of 2013. And we introduced that again as two bills, separated that like 2 months later. And both bills were enacted in January. And our president then, President Shelley, he vetoed both bills. There was heavy lobbying by the Coca-Cola industry, and the Arizona Beverage Company had hired our own people to lobby against us. So that, it was like the day after, it was just a matter of, it seemed like seconds that the president vetoed this. And in April of 2014, we also introduced legislation to override his vetoes. And we needed a 3/4 vote on both. The unhealthy foods tax didn't pass. We were lacking one vote. The elimination of tax on healthy food, it passed. So the unhealthy foods tax, we decided we would need to look at that and include some of the data and some of the community wellness initiatives that were going on, and also the assessments, because in the beginning we didn't have all of these in the legislations. We were really looking for data about our people and also the general American Indian population, but there was really nothing specifically that we could put in the legislation. But at this point, there were community wellness assessments being done, so we did include those in the new legislation. And the unhealthy foods tax became an over 300-page piece of legislation. So this was something that we really worked hard on. And this time, we made a plan to lobby the president. And we definitely said, this is not going to happen again, where the lobbyists are going to come in and make an impact. And so he did sign that in November of 2014, and the unhealthy foods tax became effective in April. So it took everyone's effort. We did a Zumba tour de res. So we really wanted to go out there and put some energy into our work and cause some awareness. And we would serve fresh fruits and vegetables and water, fruit-infused water. And we really got the youth involved. In a local school, we have a leadership group here, and they would go on behalf of our part and also of the group and speak for the legislations. And in the center picture, you could see our Navajo pro golfer, No Tabigay. So we definitely had to include everyone, I mean, from the children, I mean, to professionals, and anyone that was willing to be a part of our initiative. So really, these are the 8 areas, that we focus on. Really seeing our people, that our people are our greatest assets, and putting them to work. And this is something that's being discussed in public health as well. How do we move about community advocacy? How do we mobilize it? How do you get volunteers to become a part of this effort? And these were really the 8 areas that helped us to focus on what we were doing and to allow others to participate and also to be involved with the council and our tribal leaders. So one thing is that we have to be a leader without a title. This was something, because it was the first time that this has been done in the US and also in the world, that a community-led referendum was successful. And BJ Fogg says that helped people to do what they already want to do. We had enough support to allow people to participate and to be encouraged and to be empowered, that we were able to take a stand in a position to be successful. So one of the biggest highlights of our work was really, where do community members stand? Because at some areas and some points of our work, we felt that we were outside of the circle. We felt that, you know, we weren't a part of the healthcare or the public health or businesses. And we had to show this slide over and over to our tribal council and really allow them to see us in a different light. And one of the biggest messages is, how do we allow our people to be seen as an asset rather than a liability, and that we, you know, have every right to be involved in legislation and also introducing it. So that also caused us to dream. It also caused us to really keep in mind of what our goals were, to be a leader, to be recognized as having the highest life expectancies in the world, to reclaim our healthy lifestyles, return to food sovereignty, and also to have promising generations. That this is something that was introduced by the people and also powered by the people, and now we're actualizing it. And so there are many different messages, whichever way that you look, that we were able to overcome and also to implement. And in saying that, I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Danny Simpson. And I know that Eugene had read your bio in the beginning, but Mr. Simpson really was leading us in this effort as a Navajo person, that we had the right to introduce legislation, but we had to have a sponsor. And so from the beginning, he's been able to coach us, to allow us to present, allow us to be vocal at all levels. And without his support, I mean, we wouldn't have been as successful as we wished. And so I'll have him take it over from here.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Danny Simpson. I'm a former council delegate for Navajo Nation Council. The biggest thing that needs to be done, I mean, if this initiative is going to be pursued by any tribe, the first thing that has to be done is educate your leaders. And we have educated our leaders for numerous years, for maybe 2 or 3 years. What we're facing today within Navajo Nation, especially obesity and diabetes. And to me, you know, the people are taking initiatives on themselves to have this 2-3 legislations passed. You know, first thing goes back to the local level and getting support at the local level. And, you know, within our Navajo Nation, you know, we do have a saying as to where, you know, your leaders who create policy to help our people, We are leaders who have the positive to bring positive changes. We have opportunity to be part of reversing and reducing disease, improving health, and creating a healthy future. We have opportunity to empower and protect our people. We have a key to unlock a healthy future for us. We are champions to restore the health of our people. And again, going off that, educating your leaders is probably the biggest thing that needs to be done to implement legislation in this fashion here. We do have fundamental laws within Navajo Nation. And one of the things that we talk about is to use what we have in place, existing laws, and legislation. And if you look at this, there's general provision, traditional laws, customary laws, natural laws, but we really use our traditional law. Legislative branch leadership enact policies and laws to address immediate and future needs. And with that, we have an epidemic of obesity and diabetes within Navajo Nation. So, and we have to, as a grassroots people and as a council delegate, we have to educate our leaders what we're facing and how do we address this issue. And again, going back to what Denisa stated, we have a lot of entities that were lobbying against our legislation. And all this, the grassroots, they were all volunteers. And it goes back to facing corporations that have making billions and billions of dollars. But we as Navajos, being very strong, that stopped us from going forward with these three or four legislations. And a lot of people thought that it was impossible to happen. And then we continue to get support from chapters. And Navajo Nation consists of 110 chapters. And these chapters are communities within Navajo Nation. So we had numerous supporting resolutions from these chapters supporting our legislation. And again, going back to, and these chapters do have local leaders too, which consists of the chapter president, vice president, and secretary and treasurer. And again, going back to educating our leaders, we have to educate our leaders at the local level because they're the ones that will have to educate the people. We had done this numerous times, educating our people, and we did get a lot of supporting resolutions to go forward with these three legislations. Again, goes back within what support do we need from internally and externally. And we did have support from like American Heart Association, even within intern like Baca Community School, Diabetes Prevention Program, Dental Policy Institute, Eastern Navajo Health Board. These are the ones internally that we got support from to the entity, but outside we also got support in how we can get these three legislations passed. So, and it goes back to not giving up. You will face a lot of challenges to get these type of legislations passed because, like I said, we will face corporations that have billions and billions of dollars. And if tribes want to take this initiative within their own tribes, it takes a lot of work. It doesn't take overnight. Denisa here has worked so many hours, almost 24/7, to get these legislation passed for like 3 or 4 years. And we did get a lot of people help to get this implemented. And it does not stop there. It doesn't stop there to where you still have people that are against this legislation that got enacted, and you still have people out there that are willing to rescind this legislation or talk about rescinding legislations. But you get the fight doesn't stop there, and you still have, like I said, you have to continue to fight the individuals that are totally against this legislation. We really appreciate Honorable Vice President Johnson as he really, it goes back to being a sponsor of legislation in the Navajo Nation Council. You only allowed to speak 20 minutes on what you're sponsoring. So, and when you sit from the floor to debate the issue, you have time to where you can say a lot of things. And Jonathan Nez, when he was a council delegate, he really spoke in support of legislation, and he's very vocal, well-respected leader. And so it's good to have a lot of, to educate these leaders and to have them, when they debate on these issues come up on these legislation, it's good to have a lot of support and make sure these individuals are very vocal, speak on the issue. So Mr. Nez, Arnwolf, Vice President Nez, really helped us get this legislation passed. And to this day, he continues as the Vice President, continue to support us because there's other issues that we had to keep moving forward with. Like, I believe that there's approximately, I think it was $2.4 to $4 million that's already been collected, and that needs to be distributed out to the chapters now. So we still have to have one more policy that needs to be approved and signed by the president. So we've still been, and it's been a struggle. It had, like I stated before, it hasn't stopped that. This policy probably was the easiest policy it was supposed to be the easiest policy to get signed by the president, but it's taken over a year. We still have resistance. We still have resistance internally and externally. And so before money just gets distributed out to the chapters, this policy has to be in place, and we still have to educate the chapters how the money can be used. So, and as I stated before, there's still resistance happening today to get the money out there, and hopefully we do get the results as soon as possible. So it takes a lot of work to make this legislation happen, and it takes a lot of work afterwards to continue with it. So you still have a lot of people out there that will lobby against you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. So one of the main areas right now that we're focusing on is the implementation. And we have to educate the 110 chapters out there about the reason, and the ways that they can get the money, and also start applying that to their community wellness projects. So that's something that we're planning and working closely with the tax commission, because the businesses that we have out there, I think there's about 80 businesses, whether that's convenience stores, grocery stores, pawn shops, anyone that is retail. There's about 80 stores that we will need to educate. There are about, I think, almost half of those stores are in compliance right now. So the figure that Mr. Simpson gave you is really based on that. Almost half of them are in compliance. And also working closely with the Office of President and Vice President now, since we are working with him, and he's really helping us to move forward, and working with the different divisions, departments, and making that move forward, and also creating public educational materials so that the public are aware. We did use a lot of social media. We do use Facebook and different ways that we don't have to have a budget for, but we would really like to put that in the newspaper as well as on the radio, which is some of the work that we did previously when we were advocating for the laws. We were on the radio on so many different channels, and also in Navajo and in English. And so those are the things really this year that we're going to be focusing on. I know many are asking about the evaluation. I have some that are asking about the implementation evaluation and also the evaluation. We are working on the plans for that, and we're really excited to see that there has been a difference made. I know that Mexico has their evaluation has been done, and also we've been able to work with groups across the U.S. That have been interested in a sin tax or some kind of fat tax, that we're able to influence them, and they're able to influence us, like Berkeley, San Francisco, San Antonio, Chicago, Connecticut, and we are going to be meeting with the people that did write the evaluation for Mexico. So it's not only the Navajo Nation that we're facing this problem, it's everyone. And so we really ask, everyone to take the Cut the Crap challenge. We try to engage, everyone, and you can see these pictures here on the bottom. The gentleman in the center is the executive director for the Office of Navajo Tax Commission. The day that the law was in effect for the tax-free healthy foods we did buy a basket full of healthy foods, and we did go there and personally thank him. And it, took several years, for us to fight for this, and it was well worth it. And one of the gentlemen on the top there with Mr. Simpson, he was another delegate from the Rama area, who really are setting an example in their community too, because they have created their wellness facility and have seen a decrease in diabetes in their community. And so he really helped us on the council floor to pass these laws. So I think that's about it. Here's our information. I know that Eugene will be forwarding you some information that I sent to him with our contact information. And so I think now we can definitely open up for a question and answer. Thank you, everyone. Back to Eugene.
Thank you, Denisa. And thank you, Danny, as well. This is very useful information. I know several of our tribal partners are doing things whether it's in regards to implementation of PSE change with healthy food. So any of this information shared, I know is very useful. So thank you. We'll still leave this open a few minutes for questions.
So I did get a question in the chat box, and it's asking if people have been able to buy healthier foods versus unhealthy foods, and also how has this changed the choices of teens and youth. And that is something that we would like to observe, and especially since the taxes did take effect at 2 different times, we're really looking at 2 different timelines. We hope that in the implementation that we'll be looking at the valuation of that implementation to see if there has been an impact of them making healthier choices. So it is something that we have written in our evaluation plan, and we hope to see. But just for general feedback, I forgot to mention, in the beginning we had resistance even from the people, because when dealing with unhealthy foods, junk food, we know that it's an addiction. And we know that some people, are unable to give up unhealthy foods. And so there was some opposition, but 4 years into it, and when we did pass the laws, our Navajo Nation were very well aware of the law. And so we would get text messages of people saying, hey, Denisa, look, I bought, my snacks, and I did pay the unhealthy food tax, and they were more accepting of it. And also it was a friendly awareness tax that finally that there is a discussion at the register that people are, saying, hey, am I paying tax on this, or am I buying my healthy food tax-free? That there are discussions going on, Navajo nationwide. So at least we can see that is, generally speaking, that there is an impact already made. Thank you for your question. So I'm not sure, Eugene, if you're getting any of these questions, but there's another question. What advice would you give to a community at the very beginning stages of starting a similar initiative? I think, first of all, if you are going to work on a fat tax, sin tax, really look at what items you would like to tax, because our tax is really looking almost at everything. And some people are more focused on the soda tax, on the chip and soda tax. Some are looking at a chip, soda, and candy tax. So really looking at what will be able to work in your community and starting from that point, because that will really set the tone and also help you to define what your initiative is going to be and working around that. And Mr. Simpson, you have any advice for that? But like Mr. Simpson said, really working with your leaders, educating them, because at one of our presentations, Mr. Simpson did make the comment that it shouldn't have taken 4 to 5 years to educate our leaders, and these are elected officials. They should be aware of our situation, of our epidemics, of what we're going through, and also the social environment, because we had feedback of individuals saying, even the leaders saying, hey, provide more education. And what we found out is that there is a lot of education out there, and our children are being educated about living a healthy lifestyle, but when they go into their social environment, to the grocery store, the convenience store, they can't apply what they're learning. And so this is something that really came out, and it's true, Mr. Simpson said, we got to educate our leaders, really working with them, continuously at every level, and keeping them informed and gaining that support from them is very important. So those are really my biggest two pieces of advice as far as the beginning stages. And the third question, I noticed in the comparison in the beginning of the spam and fruit package, just wanted to note that people do not notice a difference in the size of those items, that you do get more of the fruit than the spam. That's true. And there are places on the Navajo Nation where they don't have access to water. There's no running water, electricity. And this was something that was a huge challenge for us, because we were taxing those items. We were taxing spam and Vienna sausage. But really, our health promotion from IHS and also from the Navajo Nation, we're really working and educating people on how do you make food from canned products. For example, like a black bean salsa. Draining the black beans, and you have a can of corn, and how do you create something that's healthy as opposed to having spam or Vienna sausage in a can. And so we said, we really got to improve food security. How do we address these areas? Because many people travel over 200 miles for healthy food, and by the time that they get back, it's pretty much, not in good shape. Bananas are brown, and they don't have that access, or even they can't buy frozen vegetables in the communities and take it back because they don't have electricity. So these are some of the issues that we are discussing, and something that is causing awareness that we do need to address here on the Navajo Nation. I'm sure in your areas as well, you have some challenges as far as healthy food access, but definitely, you can get more of the fruit than the spam is something that is an educational part of our message too. And that was the reason that we did have, for example, for the council, we did make soups, we made salads, we created healthy food out of, simple ingredients, or we had fruit infused water. And so really taking like one lime or one orange and said, hey, you can create these fruit stations, which I know that at schools now that they're really allowing the kids to bring like a water bottle and have those stations available and have them get that water for free. And I have all these questions coming in. When you worked with different programs to start wellness projects like the equine therapy, how did you get the different programs to stay committed and invest in working together? And the second question, how did you educate the community that the tax funds were going to fund these kind of wellness projects to get support? So in the beginning, as far as the tax was concerned, the biggest support that we had was when the 100% of the revenue was going back to the community. We had some ideas for scholarships and roads, road improvements. There were some ideas of what we could use the tax for, but we really wanted that to go back to the community for community wellness projects. And having these groups stay committed, investing and working together, that's something that we are still trying to make happen and trying to implement, because we know that different communities, they have different needs. And so that is something that we have yet to see overall, that these partnerships will be coming together. Like Mr. Simpson said, internally and externally, we do still have opposition. And I know that individuals do make their comments that, this money is going to be used otherwise, but we're really helping the public to know that these funds are for the communities, and as a community member, that you have that opportunity, that you have that right to engage with your community, with your chapter, and also the Division of Community Development, because they are going to be overseeing these activities. So it's something that we're working on, and it's something that, the next couple of years that we hope to see that people will be working together. But one biggest thing is that now, since we are working on the distribution of that money, that programs and individuals, and especially the youth, they're on fire for their community wellness projects. I have people calling and emailing saying, hey, Denisa, I have my resolution ready. How do we get this money? And, you know, the amazing thing about it is that some communities have been waiting for a couple of years for this project, and also for the tax, you know, to generate revenue. And so we hope, you know, that all goes well in the next couple of years, and that, you know, other tribes will be able to follow our model. The last question, have retailers become partners, or is it an adversarial relationship? I think at times it can be challenging, and also that they can be an adversary, but I think at the same time with the non-native business owners, that they see our people suffering, that they see that, you know, people are coming in and the children are coming in, especially, you know, using their food assistance, you know, to buy cans of soda and chips and candy. And this is something that they're seeing as their nutritional value of, like, their food, their dinner, their breakfast, whatever it is. But I think now, because we have made the statement, we have made this impact, that the business owners are finally coming and saying, hey, I support you, and I will work, you know, with you, so that we can definitely implement the healthy part of the tax too, because now we have the gardeners and the farmers coming to the local grocery store, convenience stores, and even for the restaurants, that they're buying from the local people to create, like, for example, in a place called Shiprock just near here, they buy from the local farmers and they make their Chinese food with the local vegetables. And so that is something that is opening up healthy entrepreneurism, is something that, you know, we hope that we'll all become partners in, that more businesses and business owners will be able to grasp our vision and our idea about what a healthy Dine Nation is. And so sometimes they are partners, and then sometimes, of course, they are adversaries, just depends. But we hope that in the next couple of months that we'll be able to provide trainings for them as business owners to understand all of the laws, and that they'll be able to implement that in their businesses if they haven't already. And also for the people to know that, hey, I do have access to healthy food in my convenience stores, where as before I didn't have that access. And so we hope to make that change. And so that was the last question. I don't know if anybody else has any questions. And of course, if I don't answer your question, or Mr. Simpson has maybe more input, you can always email us. And we have some resources that we can email you as well. Okay, one more came in. I know that in discussion with retailers who have heard here in our area, the retailers mentioned that they go by supply and demand, and that their consumers usually want to buy the empty caloric foods. That is very true. As much as it is the supply and demand, I mean, we're up against that. That is always something that is going to be a challenge for us. But we hope that with this, that we also make that change within our homes and within our families, in our communities. And we've seen that. And Mr. Simpson has a testimony, I mean, about how you've changed your eating habits. You want to share with them just quickly?
Thank you, Lisa. It goes back to what we talk about, educating our leaders. I think if we're going to, as a leader, as a former leader, actually to say, you know, what we're going to try to push forward, we had to set example as leaders. And I did that. And, you know, at one time I weighed about 200, and I said about 250 pounds. So I said, wait a second, I'm pushing this legislation to get it passed. We want our people to start eating healthy. We want people to stop eating junk food. So, and I always thought that, okay, if I want to push for this legislation, I had to set example. So I stopped drinking soda. I stopped eating sugary food. My diet has improved tremendously. Where I lost, I think it was about 80 pounds. So I've been running a lot. So the same thing happened with the Vice President of Navajo Nation, Jonathan Nez. At one time, Jonathan Nez was reaching about 300 pounds. He's the same weight. So he started running and started eating healthy. And right now he runs marathons. He's down to, I think, 160 pounds. So as leaders, we had to set examples in order for people to start thinking, okay, if our leaders are telling us to eat healthy, how come they're not eating healthy? So I think a lot of time the impact, especially within my communities, I represent 8 communities. I used to represent 8 communities within the Navajo Nation. So And the staff that I have now here, always eat healthy. And now the staff there is like, Mr. Simpson, you know what? We never ate healthy here. We always go to a convenience store. We always got hot dogs, those cold sandwiches, potato chip. But since you came here, you're always eating healthy. So now the staff are eating very, very healthy. And I've been with this organization for 3 months now at the local level. So as a leader, set an example, people will follow you. And I think a lot of leaders need to do that. And I think that as leaders, we do set examples. I think we can have a lot of our people start eating healthy and just start being more active again. So as leaders, we do have to set examples.
And then one more comment to that is that the Harvard Partners in Health have actually been implementing the fruits and vegetable prescription. So they've been working with the local stores to ensure that there are plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables so that when the prescription is given to the families that are disposed or predisposed to diabetes, that they'll be able to have that voucher and that fruits and vegetables will be there at the store ready for them, or even at the grocery store. And so although we are, challenging that supply and demand, we're really looking at the epidemics that we're facing and really looking for health solutions and finding those areas and ways to leverage off of these different partnerships.
Well, thank you, Denisa, and thank you, Danny. It was an honor to have you guys speak on behalf of our monthly community health webinar series. So on behalf of Great Plains, thank you. Very appreciative of it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I'll be sending everyone a link to our evaluation survey. So if everyone can fill that out, I'll be sending it out through SurveyMonkey. So you'll be receiving an email. Thank you for joining us today on our monthly community health webinar series.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.